Welcome to the world-famous Occupy Forum. Thank you for coming. I'm assuming everyone can hear me all right?
Yeah.
We do have a PA system, so speakers can be used if required. So we have two potentially, we're supposed to have three speakers. Hopefully one hasn't shown up. Hopefully he's just late. And we will have the three speakers speak at the beginning of the program. We'll have a Q&A session, and then an opportunity to make announcements at the end of tonight's forum. Let's see. Tonight's forum is Bringing on the Demise of Dirty Energy Corporations and the Rise of a Sustainable Future.
Yay!
Oil, coal, and nuclear corporations are public enemy number one. That's attributed to Bill McKibben of 350.org. They poison our bodies and our democracy, give rise to a huge military-industrial complex, and recklessly fuel the climate crisis, virtually unregulated by our government. There is abundant evidence that we have the means and the technology to replace fossil fuels and nuclear energy with the renewable energy infrastructure. Yet big oil has a stranglehold over our economy, our media, and our government. It's time that we, the people, band together to confront and disarm the dirty energy monopoly and recreate a sustainable future. So our three speakers who will talk on this subject are Jason Fried from Clean Power SF, Jess Gervin-Ackerman from 350 Bay Area, and hopefully Michael Marks, director of the Sierra Club of Beyond Oil. So first off this evening, we have Jason Fried. He's here from Clean Power SF, a project of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. Its intention was to allow consumers to make their own choice regarding where their power was sourced. For instance, customers could specify solar energy over fossil fuels for our homes and businesses. Jason will explain how this will work in actuality. And thank you, everybody. Jason.
Thank you very much. Once again, Jason Fried. I'm actually with the San Francisco Local Agency Formation Commission. We're working with the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, a bunch of acronyms that all belong in there someplace, I'm sure. So what I'm going to be talking to you about is how you get your electricity generation right now. How many of you know where your electricity gets generated? Okay, where?
Hydroelectric
That's actually where the city gets its electricity. Where do you as a resident get your electricity? All right, someone else want to answer that question. You got it first.
Coal, electricity imported from Nevada?
Not really all that much. Basically, the answer I was looking for is PG&E. You get your electricity from them. So, PG&E, where do they get their, how do they generate their electricity? Here's how they've generated electricity for the last 2 years. You see a large portion of nuclear, some large hydro. Nothing against large hydro. I know there's some folks out there that have issues with large hydro, but from a city perspective, it's greenhouse gas free. The city's generation of its large hydro sewer comes from 100% water delivery, so the only time they generate electricity is when you're putting on your faucet or flushing your toilet or water's getting delivered to some other customer. So it's kind of a secondary product of the water being delivered to your homes or to the businesses. They get about 16% to 19% in 2011. That number will go up when they finally release their numbers at some point this year for 2012. They get natural gas or fossil fuel is 25%. And then you see this big source of unspecified. What unspecified is it's really what they refer to as energy is being generated and they're not exactly sure where it's coming from because it's all getting mixed in together and they're not 100% sure. I will guarantee you the largest portion of that is coming from a fossil fuel source. Because if it was coming from a renewable source, they would be tracking it. That stuff gets tracked very, very carefully. The nuclear gets tracked very carefully because it's really only produced in 2 places for California, and PG&E owns one of them, so they get credit for all their own generation there. So the bulk of that 18% or 15%, depending on what year you're looking at there, comes from, a fossil fuel source. Normally it's natural gas. You'll notice that the state has a requirement that 20% of energy generation is supposed to be, by 2010, we're now 2013, it's supposed to be coming from renewable sources, and they're only at 19%. Just to be fair to them, the state actually requires you to have, I think it's 3 years where you can balance out. So technically, even though they didn't meet it in 2010, if they got a little bit more in 2012 or 2013, they're able to balance it out and say we averaged out and we meet the requirements. That's what the law allows them to do. Now, the city, as was actually pointed out earlier, has been doing energy generation for a very long time. Here's actually the city's energy generation mix. It starts out in the Hetchetchee Reservoir, moves its way through, and most of it's hydro. You'll notice when you get closer into the city that you got some solar and a little bit of biogas. The biogas is actually from the wastewater treatment plants. They produce some biogas, and the PUC has been collecting it and turning that into electricity. So it's actually a good way to use, since it's already being produced by the wastewater treatment plant, they capture it and turn it into electricity. So those are some of the things. All the energy that is generated by the city is done, is considered HG free energy, and they've been doing it for a very long time. So they have a history of doing this stuff. I don't know, you guys want questions during or after? I want to yield to after? Okay. We'll wait for questions after. I'm more happy to answer your questions. So what Clean Power SF is it's a clean renewable energy source. We want to do 100% state standard renewable energy generation for customers. You will be given a choice. Where this comes from, we're still working out all the details on it. It hasn't been finalized yet. We're still trying to make sure we get the best mix possible. But you're talking about stuff like solar, wind, geothermal. Small hydro is considered renewable. Large hydro is generally not considered renewable. So that's where we're looking at doing and how we're looking at doing it. Into some of the details of it, the top row there is how you currently get your electricity. PG&E generates it. It goes through their distribution and transmission and local lines and to your home or business. Clean Power SF will change one aspect of it. It's only the generation line. In order to change the rest of that, it would actually require a vote of the people. And San Francisco has tried multiple times to get that to happen. PG&E has spent a lot of money to keep that from happening, and so it has never happened in the city. But this is an alternative. The state created a rule back in 2003 that said cities and counties can aggregate all their customers together and do energy generation on their behalf, and then we use the local utility, in this case PG&E, to transmit and distribute to you. You still get one bill from them. Everything still goes through them. We're just doing your energy generation, so you're getting it from a cleaner source than where PG&E is generated. You don't get any of that nuclear I showed you earlier, any of the fossil fuels. We're taking that out of the mix. There's no changes. If nothing happens, you continue to get if you're our customer, one day you're PG&E, the next day we flip our switch and say we're now serving you. You then become our customer. You don't see any changes at your home. You still continue to get one bill from them. You pay one bill to PG&E. They then give us the money for your line item, which we'll get into in a second. And none of this money is being funded by the taxpayers. It's all the people that participate in the program are the ones that pay for the program. So if you're not a participant of our program, if you don't live in San Francisco, don't pay your own PG&E bill, you're not paying for this program. It's only the people that are choosing to participate in this program pay for it. So, I just want to show you this real quickly, and this is a little confusing for some people. Tiers are, for residential customers, they break the way the state breaks it down, the state regulators break it down, is they break it down into tiers. The lowest tier is tier 1. That means you're a very small energy user. You don't use a lot of electricity. Tier 5 are very big energy users. Those are folks that use a ton of energy during the course of a month. And the way the state does it is the more energy you use, they like to ding you and make it so to try and give you an incentive to use less. So the more energy you use, they allow PG&E to charge you a little bit extra for transmission and distribution. It used to be on generation they charged you extra as well. But when we started coming out with our program and some other folks were talking about doing similar things, they said, oh wait, this is competition, so let's make everyone pay a really low price for their generation. And you never noticed it because your generation got cheaper, but they increased your transmission and distribution costs so they can continue to make the money that they made prior to them making that change. So this just gives you an idea that most of the folks in the city are low energy users. Tier 1, Tier 2 are your lowest. Tier customers are those folks that are that are low income. There's a program the state requires that they get a discount off of their bill if they make under a certain amount of money. Anyone that is low income should definitely sign up for it. It's there for you to use. I encourage everyone to sign up for it. And then 2%, the other is folks that use zero natural gas in their house and are all electric customers. So they only use like electricity heating, electricity for the stove. They're not using any gas whatsoever. So there's a small portion of folks, and most folks don't fall into that category, so you don't really hear me talking too much about it during today's presentation. But the reason I'm mentioning this is Tier 1, when I'm doing most stuff, I normally refer to the average Tier 1 customer because that's what most people in the city fall into. So what your bill will look like is something similar here. You got the two different clean power. I said, don't worry about the prices on this. This is not a price point thing. It's more just to show you what a bill looks like. The generation line will continue to remain on there, but it'll be our generation or their generation. If you come with us, what's power charge and different adjustment. It's basically an exit fee. They're allowed to charge you to leave being their customer, even if it's your choice. That charge over time will go down, and that charge actually fluctuates from year to year based on what contracts they sign. There's a whole big mathematical formula of how they determine that the state oversees. But over time, that should go down. And then the franchise fee is something that they get to charge you. It's actually the city charges them, and they're just going to be able to recoup their portion of the generation cost to you. So it's that part you're paying to them or paying through a different system. So that kind of remains the same. But if you were to get your bill, that's what you would see your changes on your bill for. Now, when we're talking about rates, this is a very popular subject. It was actually in today's Examiner, if you were reading that as a cover story. Clean Power SF is a premium energy product. I don't think anyone in this room, I hope, would argue with me that to get 100% renewable energy is better than getting the mix that we saw earlier. So it's a premium energy product. We're going to offer this program, the cleanest energy anywhere you get in the United States. There's really no one that has a cleaner energy system from greenhouse gas emissions to renewables than what our mix is going to be looking at. That's what our goal is to get you the cleanest mix that we can possibly get you into the system. And actual rates will increase depending on how much energy you use. So it's not like when you see, I'm about to get into some averages and some like typical customer type data, your energy bill will be independent of how many kilowatts you use in your house. So the more you use, the bigger the difference could be in your program. That's with the Tier 1 to Tier 5 customers. Tier 5 is going to be much bigger than Tier 1, but even within Tier 1, we're giving you averages, so you could be above or below that average, depending on how much you use compared to the average customer in that category. We're doing our best to keep those rates to as close to PG&E as possible. We're continuing to look at ways to do it. Reality is, we're using a premium product, so you're going to be a little bit more of an adjustment in that. And right now, where we're at in the process is we're looking at not to exceed rates. The thing to keep in mind with not to exceed rates is this is the highest that we're looking at it being. We're not looking at it from what is the best, cheapest product we can get you. It's just what is the highest amount that we would be able to charge you, because there are two factors to that. One, we're not launching it right now today. We're launching it later on, end of this year, beginning of next year is when we're looking at launching. So we've got to predict what energy prices are going to be then, and we need to be able to go out and talk to people about it. So we're creating a system called a not to exceed rate, so we don't go over this rate, and that's what we're trying to guarantee to folks is we're not going to go higher than this, but hopefully we're going to get it lower than that. So here is what your various tiers are for Tier 1 through 5, and then your CARES 1, 2, and 3. CARES 1, 2, and 3 are kind of like Tiers 1 through 5, but for the low-income folks, they actually only have 3 tiers rather than 5 tiers. You'll notice that your typical Tier 1 user on the not-to-exceed rate is looking at possibly spending about $10 more a month than what you pay right now for PG&E. You will have a choice in this, and we'll get into that choice stuff in just a second. But I just wanted to go through the whole process of your energy bill, your electric-only portion will be about 55% higher, but most people don't know what their electricity and gas is. They look at it together. So if you're looking at it from a combined standpoint, it's about 28% of a premium for our product to get away from PG&E's energy mix into ours. You'll notice that while Tier 5 price goes down, their percent also goes, or price goes up, their percent goes down. That's because they use a lot more of electricity and they're getting dinged for other things, so their bills is much higher naturally, and our price remains the same for them. So that's what we're looking at for prices. If you live in a studio or a one-bedroom in the city, you're probably a Tier 1 customer unless you use a lot of electronics. When you start getting bigger than that, that's when you start getting into more. When you're in your independent, like if you're in condos or apartments, tend to be in the lower tiers. When you get into the single-family homes in the city, those are where you get to your Tier 5, your more expensive energy bills, because they're the only one paying for all their generation itself. So where to start Phase 1? Customers who are part of the enrollment during Phase 1 and do not wish to participate, there's an opt-out process. And I'll get into where in the city we're going to in just a second, but there is a process where we have to send you 2 notices prior to the launch of the program. You will get those notices from us saying, we're about to launch, do you want to be in this program, yes or no? If you don't want to be, you call us up, go to the internet, we'll have some ways for you to choose, and then you say, I don't want to be part of your program, you're removed, you're never part of it, you remain with PG&E and as a PG&E customer. Those that don't choose to opt out, and this is the way the state law was set up, are enrolled into our program and you become one of our customers. Now we're not going to the whole city, we're only going to go to part of the city, so those customers that are not in our phase 1 of the program will be able to voluntarily sign up if you do it early enough into the process. We'll get you in and we'll enroll you so that way you can be part of it, because it's not your fault that you don't happen to live where phase 1 is starting. And if you really want to be in it, we're going to let you join the program. And then over the past 3 years, we've been doing a lot of these community meetings, we've been doing a lot of market research, a lot of things, which has led us to this fun little map, which is a precinct. For those that do campaigns and political stuff in the city, you'll notice that's the precinct map of the city. Basically what it is the darker the green, the more that our polling and information tells us, these are people that really want to be in the program. Even at a premium, they still want to be in this program. So you'll notice districts 5 and 8 and 6 and the top portion of 9, all are really interested in this program. You'll notice down in 7, 10, 4, kind of that quarter down there. Not really, that's red. They don't really like this. You'll notice one of the things that you'll notice is, if you know the city well enough, where this the greenest, you tend to have the smaller, apartments and studios. Where you have the reddest tends to be the single-family homes, which are your tier 5 customers, tend to live more down there. So this kind of gives us an idea. So phase 1, we're still not 100% sure where exactly we're going. We have to average in customers. But you can imagine it's going to be in the greenest area. So if you live in the greenest area, you're probably going to be in phase 1. If you don't, you will be able to voluntarily sign up and join the program on your own as an individual person. So what this does is gives you a personal choice. Right now, you're stuck with PG&E. Unless you own your own building and have enough sun to put solar on your roof, or can figure out how to get a wind turbine installed in the city, which no one's ever been able to do really yet, other than some small building, like things that are attached to the building, but independent wind turbines aren't going to be installed in the city anywhere. It would be nice if we could, but there's a lot of obstacles to that. So you don't have a choice. We're going to give you a choice between our program and PG&E. It'll always be a choice for you. Residents, you can always go back to PG&E and to their power mix anytime you want. And so this puts you in the driver's seat as to where we are going. Some of the benefits that we're looking at. Local jobs. One of the things that we want to do is, yes, we understand we might be charging a little bit of a premium for your generation. One of the things that we want to do, there's 2 things we want to actually do. One is, we want to make you more energy efficient. We want you so you're using less electricity. Something you really don't ever hear PG&E saying all that loudly or all that much is, we want your bill to go down. So yes, you're paying a little bit more for our generation, but if we can lower how much energy you actually use, your overall bill at the end of the month could end up becoming equal to what you're paying under PG&E, or even a little bit less depending on how much energy work you can do in your house. And that creates local jobs, because the more energy efficient, you have to reinstall, replace some windows or do some other stuff that makes your house more energy efficient, or replace all your light fixtures or whatever it is you're doing. That creates jobs. And then the other part is doing installations of our own solar. We want to put as much solar up in the city as we can. We want to do as much, there's some discussion about cogeneration, which is downtown. There are a bunch of buildings that have their own steam, natural gas heating systems. And there's a lot of energy that gets wasted off of those. There's a way to capture that, put a cap on top of it, capture that energy and turn it into more electricity. So we're looking at various options like that, and that creates more jobs by having more of that type of stuff. And to the degree we get the large buildings to do some energy efficiency work and join our program, creates more and more jobs. And that's what our goal is to do as much in-city generation as we can. Some of it's a little expensive, so we got to be careful with price. There's a price point there. But we're going to do as much in-city generation as we can, and that creates jobs here at the local economy. And then one of the things is we start owning our own energy, which means in the long run, right now, PG&E every quarter can change your rates. That's just the way that they're allowed. They don't change it every single quarter, but they have the ability to. Under our program, we're going to lock your rates in so you have a stable rate structure. On January 1st, if you're paying X rate, on December 31st, you're continuing to pay that same rate. January 1st of next year, your price will go up, potentially because of inflation, so we understand prices go up a little bit. But we're only going to do your rate changes once a year, which makes it easier for people who are on a fixed income to know, here's what my energy bill is going to be. Right now under PG&E, and it's not so much on the residential side, much more on commercial, you get folks who have very large energy bills. You know, a few cents difference in how much they're being charged from one month to the next really can inflate their energy bills. And that's one of the things that we're looking at doing, is creating a more stable structure so people are more firm in what they're paying and can better budget themselves over the course of the year. So that's where we're at there. So that's the information. There is one thing that's not part of this presentation I do want to bring up because I know it's going to be an issue with some of you in this room. Our initial contract to get energy is with Shell Energy North America. I know Shell is not a very popular company amongst some people, particularly in this room. But here's the reality. You are currently getting energy from Shell Energy North America. It's called PG&E's Energy Mix. PG&E currently buys energy from Shell. And so not all of PG&E's energy comes from Shell, but some of it does. And this gives us, what this does is anyone that's in the energy market, any large customers, gets energy either directly or indirectly from Shell. And our goal is to, yes, we need to buy from them because they are the ones that are out there that can provide the energy that we're looking for. You're getting cleaner energy from us than you will be from PG&E from Shell. But you're also giving us the ability to start being able to have rates and collecting money, which allows us to go out and get bonded. We can then take that bonding money to go out and actually build larger solar stuff that we own, which means over time our energy mix becomes less and less Shell and more owned by the people of San Francisco who are part of this program. So yes, I get that there is some frustration with Shell and not wanting them to be your energy provider, but in my opinion, I'm giving you my personal opinion at this point, it's better to at least start there and get to our own energy independence than not to be able to start at all. And we tried going to another energy provider prior to Shell. Those negotiations didn't work out. We couldn't get what we needed. And so we had to revert back to Shell because they were the only other option out there. So I just wanted to be upfront with folks about that. I don't want anyone to be shocked or surprised that, initially we're starting with Shell. And what we're doing is we're starting off with a small program. It's going to be 20 to 30 megawatts of energy from Shell. We're still figuring all the details out on that. With the goal of building our own, so over time, as we grow and expand to the rest of the city, we're hopefully not using as much Shell energy. We're using more of our own generation, or from other generation sources that are independent. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions until my time is up and you guys get me out. And then, while I'm doing that, while I'm answering questions, I'm going to pass around this sign-up sheet here. If anyone that wants to keep informed, get more information, put your email address on here. Also inside, there's a little fact sheet that tells you a little bit more about, it gives you all the information I just gave you so you can take it with me. And I have another sheet here if that one fills out, just let me know. Question?
So really basic to make sure I got this. This is all about the electricity, not the gas?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, we're only talking electricity generation. We are not talking about the natural gas that flows into your home that heats your house. That is a completely different issue and we don't touch that.
So to get cleaner there, you would have to convert things to electricity from the natural gas?
Yes, yeah. If you convert it to electricity and then had us as your provider, you would then be getting a much better mix for the environment, which is something that could be good for you. I saw a hand over here.
I've seen some anti-Shell stuff on Facebook, Shell Shock, which, I do have a problem with Shell overall, but I'm really supportive of this program. Can you explain what I can do to be more supportive of the program, or kind of how I can address that?
First, to address the first part, Stop Shell Shock San Francisco, or Stop San Francisco Shell Shock. I forget what the exact name is on Facebook. It is a page that was established by IBEW 1245. It's the line workers of PG&E. It's their union. PG&E, just to get a little bit briefer history, Marin is doing a program that's kind of similar to us, but not exactly the same. Community Choice Aggregation Program, which is what Clean Power SF is. PG&E did a lot of negative advertising against them and really attacked them. The state came in as soon as they started doing that and said, wait. That's not right, that's not fair. You need to be more open with folks. You can't be doing anything negative. So this time around what we now see is we see friends of PG&E, their union, actually going out and doing negative campaigning against us already. A lot of the things that they have on the Stop Shell Shock are gross misrepresentations of the program. One of the advertisements that I saw said that we're not creating any new jobs, that we're not creating any new single kilowatt of energy, which is all false. One of the things I forgot to mention in my presentation is, starting on day one of our program, we're going to have $6 million set aside for for build out and for studies. $2 million is going to go to a program called Go Solar SF. That is a program that currently exists. We're going to give extra money to that program. It gives you incentives and gives you discounts if you put solar on your own rooftop. It's like a private building structure. The city gives you incentives. We're going to increase the amount of money that's in there for our customers to be able to build even more, because that pot of money runs out every year. So we want to increase that money in that system. Another $2 million of that initial startup goes to energy efficiency, so we have money right away to help people do energy efficiency work. And then the third $2 million goes towards looking at larger build-up, the planning process for doing like really like a wind farm someplace, you know, that takes a lot more money, a lot more time to do. So they've already set aside money to do that. So that's the first part of stuff. What you can be doing, you know, one of the things I do when I see I pay attention to that that Facebook page on a regular basis because, well, it's kind of my job too. So what I do is when I see my friends are liking it or looking into it, I actually will give them a message saying, hey, just so you're aware, freedom of choice, you can do what you want, just so you know here's who's actually behind it, because they're very shy about talking about who and what they are. They don't like to do that. I do know some folks that have tried to put comments up on their Facebook page and have had their comments taken down by the group because it questioned their group and they don't like that. So to the degree any of you wish to do that, just be aware that they have been known to take down their messages of people, messages they don't like. So that's, and then if you want to stay involved, like there's a sign-in sheet that's going around. As time goes on, we'll be definitely getting folks the word out there. So we will keep this group informed through Ruthie, since she was our contact for this, and she can keep you guys informed of stuff as well. I had a question.
Wait, hold on.
Are you doing the question? Okay.
No, I just want to, first of all, try and keep your questions and comments to a minute, and then everyone who has a question raise their hand, and we'll go 1, say a number, remember it.
3, sorry.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so question 1.
I had to walk out of left field, but I was wondering, did you talk about a couple of things, how this can be a model across the country, and what's the potential for this kind of model to transform every city's infrastructure over towards 100% renewable energy? And the second question was, you might have gotten over it, but it was kind of technical. What you said that you're offering 100% renewable energy. Did you say where they were coming from? You might have said it.
Okay, I'll answer that second part. We are still in the planning process of that part. We haven't determined where the exact sites are. We know that we want to do, you know, a certain amount of solar and a certain amount of wind. We want to make sure our mix is there, but we haven't exactly cited the location of where it's physically going to be located yet. That's still in the planning process, and we'll be moving forward. That's one of the reasons why we start with the Shell contract. We get them involved, we get our energy so we can start getting the money in. So as we figure out where the site is, we can start the build out and bonding off of it. The other part of your question is, what we're doing is called community choice aggregation. It is something that exists in a bunch of other states, but not a lot of states. I want to say it's like 9 or 10 states where they can do a similar type program. California is the only place that has actually looked at this type of a program in the eyes of being more environmentally friendly. Most of the places actually use community choice aggregation. They simply look at how can we get energy as cheap as we can to our residents of our cities and counties. And Marin is actually doing something similar to us. They actually have a 2-tiered program where they have some folks that are at the base program, which is called light green. You're like 50% greenhouse gas free, and then you can voluntarily sign up to be 100% renewable, like what our program is talking about. And that's but that's a separate. So does that exist? We would be the only place that starts with 100% renewable. And this, is a model. If we can get this, make it successful, as there's a lot of, that live in San Francisco, the motto kind of here is, as goes San Francisco, so goes California, so goes the country, so goes the world. Well, that is true here, because we will be showing that we can do something successful and there's already other cities in California that are hearing what Marin did and looking at what we're doing and are already starting to talk about how do we get involved in this, because there's a lot of things, this helps us reduce our greenhouse gases, and the state has requirements for cities to do that. And this is actually one of the ways that some places look at it, how that this is one good avenue to do that with it. So, question
2.
Yes, can you tell me, is Clean Power San Francisco, is that a for-profit company? And
So, and if your energy base right now is Shell oil, or that's your provider, that means that until you get, am I right, until you get the seed money and can switch from fossil fuel companies to, let's say, wind or solar. So, am I right about that?
First part is, well, let me answer that last part first. Shell Energy, and I know this is a very technical, it's actually not Shell Dutch Oil, it's actually Shell Energy North America, it's a subsidiary of them. They don't deal with oil drilling and all that, the stuff that most people hear Shell on. They will be producing energy for us that comes from renewable sources. So it's not like we're buying, nasty, dirty energy from them. We're actually going to be buying cleaner energy from cleaner energy sources that they have access to. Either they currently own, they own hydro, they own wind, and so they own some of this stuff already. Some of it they will go out and buy from us because there's state requirements that they also have to partake in for us to be qualified under the state system. So that part, yes, we are doing that, and that gives us the ability to go on and build our own later on as the program gets in. What's the first?
Is clean energy of profit?
Oh, no, this is the city and county of San Francisco. We're not a for-profit entity. We actually, any money that is made off of this goes right back into the program to either lower future rates or to build more. Initially, all the money is going to go to build more. It's not really going to be to subsidize rates in the future. It's going to be how quickly can we build and get all of our own and own all of our own generation. And once we've done that, then we get a more stable rate structure going forward with that.
People who are equal municipalized, could I assume that therefore clean power is like public power?
I call this the cousin of public power. It's not really exactly the same because PG&E still owns the lines, but we control the generation, which for a lot of people is the most important part of it. Is how is the energy getting generated? For other people, yeah, they want to control the whole system, and that requires a vote of the people, and everyone would be forced into one system. This is kind of a hybrid. It's a compromise between a full public power system and a completely private system. It's a merger of the two. So for those folks that like the blue truck that comes up and fixes the wires on their street, you continue to get that blue truck coming up and fixing the wires on your street. I mean, their line workers, the folks that work locally, they do a great job. I actually personally have no complaints about this. So it's sometimes the corporate folks that people like to complain about.
Great. All right. 3.
Actually, I think she was technically 3.
Yeah, because I was trying to tell you that you were next.
Okay. 4.
Will you guys be eligible for any federal stimulus, if there's a stimulus in the future, federal grants to build clean energy projects? Because doesn't PG&E get federal grants to do
Yes and no. The federal grants really depends on how they're set up. A lot of times they're either set up so governments can use them or so the private sector can use them. So when they set up ones that are for the government, we can definitely climb into that hole. There is some question depending on exactly how it legally gets set up on the private side, because we are a government agency, but we're doing something on behalf of the citizens, which is not a very common practice in most of the country. So, there might be, depending on how it gets worded, some ability to use that money. But that really depends on future fundings and how they set it up. But anytime we can go after money to bring in more money into the system that's from outside the system, we're definitely going to do that.
Yeah. And then my other question was about where the power currently being generated by the city, by biogas is being used.
The current energy that's being used is used by the city. It's used at City Hall for the police, for the schools, for General Hospital. It goes to Muni. It doesn't guarantee Muni runs on time, but it goes to Muni. So that's where the current energy. The city currently generates of all the energy that's used in San Francisco. About 18% of it is used by the city and is generated already by the city for itself. So it doesn't go to PG&E. The city's kind of already in one of these types of programs where it generates all its own stuff and it goes into PG&E's wires and PG&E delivers it to the various buildings.
No, we have to, one per customer, please. Okay, 6.
So,
I think it was 5.
5. Okay, 5.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
So, how do you know what tier you're in? Does it say that on your bill?
If you look at your bill, actually, this is kind of modeled after a bill. You see where it says tiers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You see how this one is a tier 1 customer, so in the dollar section, there's only an amount in tier 1. So that will actually tell you, if you look at your bill, you'll be able to tell what tier. If you look at the right section, you'll be able to, oh, I'm getting charged. I don't know if it actually has all 5 tiers listed there. Sometimes it will list the tiers, but it should tell you what tier you are. I'm willing to bet most folks in this room, just depending on where you live, if you live in an apartment or you know. Yeah, okay. Are you in an independent house? Yeah. Okay, you might be in a little bit higher tier then.
And we have solar, so I'm wondering if we join up. So we're pretty, on our electricity right now, we're pretty much zero.
Okay.
What happens?
Thank you. What we're looking at doing is a kind of a hybrid between net metering and feed-in tariff. I don't know for those folks that know what that is, but one is basically the way the system currently works. You generate more electricity. You generate the electricity you need. As you're generating it, your bill winds down to 0. And if you go past 0, you may get a little bit of money from PG&E, but they only give you what the charge of energy is, but they count dirty energy in that charge. Since we're going to be all renewable energy, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to give you the charge of what renewable energy actually is worth. It may not be worth what you paid to put your solar on your roof, which might be a little bit different, but whatever our average generation is for wind and solar and all that, so you're going to actually get, if you can over-generate on your roof, and you're our customer, you will get more money back from us. If you're someone who puts solar on your roof, you probably actually might be a tier 1 customer because you use so little energy from actually PG&E, because most people don't overproduce because there is no incentive to really do it. We're going to give you a better incentive to maybe call up the folks and have to reinstall some more panels and you can overproduce if you're our customer, which we would love. Creates more jobs. Right, our contractor will. Okay. The contractor will tell you never to do that. Once we get our program in, we want to make sure people understand Clean Power SF will be a better option for you for that.
Excellent. 6.
So you mentioned in the passing that wind energy, there were problems with that. What about, are these regulations just outdated and also with wave?
The wind energy stuff in the city, the large turbine, I'm not talking about small, like something you put like a smokestack on your house, but the bigger turbines. A couple of attempts to do it. It requires zoning exemptions and stuff like that, and pretty much you always get the other folks in the neighborhood who don't want to be looking at a large wind turbine. That has generally been the biggest problem with trying to get those approved, is to get the neighbors saying no, no, no. And you know, the city just doesn't have the stomach to move it forward, so it basically dies at that point. There are some small wind turbine stuff you can put up. They look like smokestacks. Those are a little bit easier to get. But the big turbines, it's just, they're too tall, and they're not, from an individual customer standpoint, they're not the most cost-effective thing to do either.
Wave?
A wave? Wave is one of those things that we've looked at. It's still not cost prohibitive. But if wave technology ever came into the ability, we would definitely, there is some grant money out there to study that stuff or to even put in some test ones. The one thing that we have is we are a very big migratory sea life corridor, and that really messes up the ability to put wave stuff out there, because it messes up stuff for the animals, and something we don't want to do either. We want to create the energy, but we don't want to be messing with the sea life at the same time.
Okay, me and then you. So I live in District 6 in a large apartment building, and my bill doesn't say PG&E. I think it says ISC and telemeter, something in telemeter. What's that all about?
You could very well live in a building that has, it's probably, if you're in the business sector, I would call it the direct access, where you're buying energy from a third party and you're buying your generation from them. Your building may be large enough that it could potentially, I don't know how big the building is, but it could potentially, they could have a contract with someone else to do the energy. A lot of times what will happen is, do you have solar on your roof?
Don't think so.
Okay. Some buildings actually put solar and other stuff on the roof so they get their energy from a third-party provider, and it's an agreement. You get it, supposedly cheaper than what you pay PG&E. So in your case, if you're not a PG&E customer, you wouldn't be able to be one of our customers, because we would be PG&E customers. That's who your building has made a decision that's separate. And I'm not saying your decision is bad. It could be, you should find out where they're getting their energy from.
I don't know how, but yes.
So, could you talk a little bit more about the smaller wind turbine? Maybe not as big one, what was a small one, and are there there any in particular areas or houses that you know?
I know, I've heard that there were a couple of those installed on residential properties in the city. I honestly couldn't tell you where they are. I do know if you go to the new SFPUC building over on Golden Gate over in Civic Center Plaza area, they actually have some building size ones where there's a whole row of wind turbines that go up the side of the building, and they have it situated in a way where you, a lot of times you see the things spinning and they're generating electricity for their own building. And it's just a nice, I mean, the way they did it, it's a kind of a nice looking little attraction to it.
What's the address?
525 Golden Gate.
Thank you.
Okay, yes.
So, many of the people were aware of the turbines that were put out on the offline many years ago. They, at one point, produced enough electricity to provide the entire state of Arizona and the state of New Mexico.
Okay.
They have now been sold to the state of Texas, and they've spent years shipping them out.
Okay.
How much generation is coming out of the Altamont Pass. The amount of wind that goes through it.
Yeah, no. It's a very popular, I mean, there's a lot of wind turbines out there.
Well, that's what PG&E did with all that energy production, the man that put him up there created out of it, was sold, bought it from him in a way that he couldn't give it any of what he wanted to do with it, but they got total control of it. They sold it to some subsidiary in Texas that spent 10 years shipping it down there. They haven't even turned the turbines on.
Okay, that's quite possible. All I know is we will own our own generation, so you won't have that problem when we build our own. We're not going to sell it to PG&E. We might sell it to them at a profit, but we're not going to sell them the turbine itself.
Maybe the turbines put back out
All
there.
right.
That's a possibility.
So we got 5 more minutes. Anyone got something quick? Something?
Do you have one more?
Uh,
You can go first.
okay.
I was just gonna ask if there are any like benchmarks or deadlines for the builder in terms of how much.
Yes and no. They haven't said like firm, like here's when stuff needs to happen. This program has been, I've been working on this program for a little over 3 years now. When I was originally hired, I was told it was a 1 to 3 year time frame, and it's taking a little bit longer to do that. We're really trying to study everything and know every aspect of it. The goal is to build as much as we can, as quick as we can, without having too much of a negative impact on the rates. You can build a whole bunch of stuff, but you need the financing to do it. And in order to get the financing, you need to have a high enough rate. And if you have your rates too high, then you don't have enough customers, which then means you have less. So there's a whole circular thing that goes on there. So our goal is to build as quickly as we can, and we don't have an exact timeline set up just yet though for it.
Do you want to?
Program going to roll out?
The current expected time frame is to look at, I believe it's October, November time frame, but there are some things that have to occur before that can actually happen. And that's assuming we get the best price possible. There's a window of opportunity where we have a few months to look at pricing and determine when our best pricing point is. So that will actually really determine when we launch, is when we get that best price possible. But best case scenario, we're looking, October, November. It might slip into the beginning of next year based on everything else.
Okay, the reviewer first.
Well, the financing is coming from the ratepayers. So as we get our ratepayers into the system, we are making money off of them. We show that we have a steady rate. We have a steady flow of money coming in. We then go out to the banks to do that. I do know the chair of my commission, Ms. John Albolos, is looking at trying to create a municipal bank in the city. So if we get that set up quickly enough, we could potentially use that as our source for funding. For now, it would just be what we go out to the market, sell bonds. It's whoever buys the bonds at the highest price. And plus, yeah. Yes, it is. And so our goal is to get the best price we can for that.
So this is San Francisco City and County.
Yeah, the voters back in 2003, don't quote me on that, 2002, somewhere back in the early 2000s, actually passed Proposition B and Proposition H. Proposition B allows for bonding to occur without going back to the voters for anything the city does on renewable energy. Proposition H does the same thing, except it has to be used for the residents and commercial businesses of the city. We've never issued a Proposition H bond because we don't have a mechanism in which to finance it. Community choice aggregation will give us that mechanism to be able to use Proposition H bond.
Excellent. So thank you, everybody. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for this speaker. And we have to prepare for the next one.
Thank you, Jason.
And you'll be doing video.
Our next speaker is Michael Marks. He's the director of the Sierra Club's Beyond Oil campaign. The club has already successfully worked to stop construction of all new coal-fired plants in the U.S. He will also explain how they arrived at their strategies to get us off oil. Michael Marks, welcome.
So I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, or I'll talk for 10 minutes and then we have a Q&A for you. I can give you a sense of what our overall campaign is about, so in terms of coal, natural gas, and oil, and our thinking on that, and then, or I can focus more in on just oil. So if you have a preference, tell me now. The whole thing? Okay. So in 2005, the Sierra Club brought all of the, thousands of members together and concluded that the number one problem we faced was financial, and we needed to really orient that way. So we came out of that saying that we needed three campaigns that would fall under that umbrella. The first one was a Beyond Coal campaign, which had started as kind of a national effort to shut down and block some new coal-fired power plants. And it was going to start to pick up steam a little bit, so that was one. The second one that would evolve later was the Beyond Oil campaign, and that really came out of Katrina. The oil recovery project, or what was it, the climate recovery project. And then the third one that just was announced last year was the Beyond Natural Gas. So the Wall Street Journal kind of quips that Sierra Club is kind of beyond everything fossil fuels, and it's true, we're beyond everything fossil fuels. So let me give you just an overview of those. We're really driven by the fact that we've got to get parts per million down to 350. So, and probably even more. I mean, some of the new science coming out suggests that we are not only behind, but that may be too high a target. So we need to get off fossil fuels altogether, and the way we're thinking about it, like 2050. And so I'll give you just an overview of each of the campaigns so you at least have a sense of the way we're thinking about them. So Beyond Coal. There's really three big parts to the Beyond Coal campaign. The first is right there in the ground, mountaintop renewable. And so work with other groups, a lot of the groups work on the ground to try and keep the coal in the ground. Because if you've tracked it at all, you know that even just southern parts of West Virginia, they've blown up like 400 or 500 mountains and just leveled them. And they've wiped out whole communities, changed the whole, aquatic systems, etc. So this is in the Appalachians. I mean, this is some beautiful territory, and it isn't so beautiful once it's leveled and it's no longer a mountain. And so of course, there's kind of, in my mind, there's always kind of this moral question of, you're blowing up mountains? So that's the first part. The second part of the campaign is where the Sierra Club has really focused most of its energy. And we've been able to do it because, in part, Michael Bloomberg came along and gave us a big grant. And on the proviso that we would match it and that we'd spread the money around to all of the allies. So our job is to go out and match this $50 million grant that he gave us over a 5-year period just for coal. And then make sure that money gets distributed around. The strategy here is to say, we're going to fight every single new application for a coal-fired power plant in the U.S. The second thing is we're going to fight every application for a renewal of a coal-fired power plant in the U.S. And the third is we're going to work with EPA, and this will happen in the Obama administration, to get air and water emission standards that will make it virtually impossible to ever have another coal-fired power plant. And we're confident we're going to get that within the Obama administration. And if you talk to Bruce Nilles, who is the head of this campaign for us, our projections are that we will be completely off coal-fired power plants by 2030. So that's pretty exciting, actually. It's I think when I look at it, I go, wow, it's part of the reason I decided a year and a half ago to come to the Sierra Club was I went, they are really, they're like, this is the premier campaign, climate campaign in my mind. And it's not just the Sierra Club, there's a lot of groups working on it and making it happen. So proud to be part of that alliance. So that's the second part of coal. The third part of the coal campaign is keep the coal in the U.S. from going abroad. So now we got coal train campaigns. So the coal industry, realizing that the demand for coal was going down, went, we got to get it abroad. We got to get it to China. So what are they doing? They've got all of these long, heavy coal trains headed through places like Spokane, Washington, out to the coast, so they can get it shipped from a port over to China. So it's the classic waterbed effect, and you see it in all these corporate campaigns that are happening out there. You squeeze them in one area, and the industry will look for ways to get around them. And so the big battlefront now is the coal trains. And it's where we probably inspire the most passion, because these things run, they're long, they're heavy, they're constantly throwing off coal dust as they go through these communities. So imagine, not only is it hurting your health, if you live anywhere near a railroad track, but also you have emergency vehicles that are stuck at these crossings for like 20 minutes while these trains are going by because they're so long. So that is the coal, Beyond Coal campaign. And the positive side of it is really advancing the clean alternatives. Now the reality is, and I'll mention, the reality is we would probably not be winning this campaign if natural gas fracking wasn't happening and the price had gone down so damn low that anybody out there who's in the business of generating energy would say, we got to do it for natural gas. And there was a time when we thought, yeah, natural gas could be the bridge fuel. We do not think that anymore. So that's the segue into the second campaign, which I'll talk about, which is Beyond Natural Gas. But the reality is, when you look, well, natural gas gets so complicated, as you all know, in terms of just the fugitive methane leaks that are 25 times more powerful in terms of their impact on climate than is carbon dioxide. So they're shorter lived, but they're hugely powerful. It turns out, though, that when you look at it, and we'll get some better data, that it is better to shift to natural gas than it is to burn coal. The problem is we don't want to institutionalize a source of energy production that leaves us stuck with natural gas in the long haul. So we've got an evolving now clean energy side to that campaign. All right, so I'll set that one over here. Let's talk about natural gas, Beyond Natural Gas. This is the most recent campaign. It's been in existence for some time, but as we were doing work on it, but we decided to really elevate it to campaign status in the last year. And natural gas is a problem for a whole hell of a lot of reasons that you guys probably know well. First of all, when Bush and Cheney came into office, they exempted gas fracking and oil fracking from like 11 major national regulatory regimens. No Clean Air Act, no Clean Water Act, no Clean Drinking Water Act, all exempted from that. So they can literally get away with murder. If you look at the Bakken, Bakken's oil, I'll stay with natural gas. So you've seen or heard about Gasland. There's all kinds of issues with natural gas in terms of poisoning or getting the methane, A, the leaks, and B, into the water tables. So the natural gas campaign has basically got three components. The first component is support the bans wherever local communities have said we don't want any fracking in our watershed. You can understand why they might not want it in their watershed. So if our groups are willing to work on that, our chapters, we have 65 of them out there in the States, we'll support that. The second is where there's not movement for a ban, at least clean it up. So we're trying to get the EPA, which has been setting up guidelines and reviewing them and getting public comment on regulations for natural gas. We're trying to make sure that they're as strict as possible. And ultimately, someday, we hope not too far in the distant future, we'll be able to get these clean air, clean water, clean drinking water, these loopholes that were created from fracking and natural gas reimposed, so that they're subject to the same rules as any other kind of energy that we might try to generate. So it's regulations, and so we're lobbying with the EPA, and we're also working at the state level to get states like New York to adopt strict fracking standards, at least if they're not going to adopt a ban. The third thing is, once again, exports. So the natural gas industry is saying, let's get this gas. We've got a lot of gas. Let's get this overseas through the liquefied natural gas. So there are 7 liquefied natural gas export terminals that are being proposed on coasts around the United States. And our theory is we have got to absolutely stop those. And that, if you've been tracking the papers, is a current issue right now. So there's just a study that came back out that I think, I don't know who it was, the Department of State or one of them actually had this study, and it basically said there's really not a problem with exporting liquefied natural gas. On balance, it's better for the environment. And we're challenging that, and we're challenging it in court as well. Because as you guys probably know, we got Earth Justice, NRDC, and Sierra Club with like the best legal departments, environmental legal departments in the country. So we're going to fight those liquid natural gas plants, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we're doing that. But bottom line is we're organizing a lot of our chapters to say, it just isn't happening. So once again, waterbed effect, you've got to plan to stop it. So you can see there's a consistent kind of progression. There's the progression from keep it in the ground if possible. If it's going to come out of the ground, use it as cleanly as possible and get strict regs on it. And make sure it can't be exported abroad. So we just sent the problem overseas. So that's the second big campaign. And that's the one that there's also, as you know, a lot of passion around. There's Mark Ruffalo and others, and I think Occupy's been great in terms of grabbing onto this, where it's really been a battle. New York, Pennsylvania, and some of those states. So that's the natural gas. The last one's the Beyond Oil campaign, my personal favorite, since I'm paid to direct it. And it is the most complex campaign I've ever been involved in, and maybe one of the most complex we've ever taken on as the environment movement. Because oil is so powerful. It has so much influence in our government. We are so addicted to it. It permeates all forms of transportation. We've set up a whole lifestyle and infrastructure and built our cities with the assumption that it was not a problem to burn oil in perpetuity. Well, it is a problem. 42% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we emit in the United States every year are due to oil. We've been focusing on coal because coal was a natural place and clear hooks and smart to go after it. We've got to figure out oil, as complicated as it is. So we've divided this campaign into 3 parts. And when you think about it, I think it makes sense. And if it doesn't, you should tell me. So there's a supply side, a demand side, and a political side. So I'll talk about the supply side. The supply side has really got 2 parts. And you start to see why it's complicated. If you look at the International Energy Agency's projections for where we're going to get our oil in the future, number 1 is tar sands from Canada. Right? So this is the dirtiest, most toxic oil in the world. The second is now fracking. So it's a conventional oil from an unconventional method, so fracking. Which, by the way, California is one of the largest sources, potentially, of fracked oil in the future, along with North Dakota and the Bakken, and the Permian and Eagle Ford reserves down in Texas. Those 3 states are like the big concentrations of oil, and they're fracking it exactly the way that they're fracking natural gas. And in fact, they're getting natural gas when they frack the oil. But there's nothing, they're out there in North Dakota, there's really weak regulations, so they're flaring it up. And so if you look from space at a satellite image at night of the Bakken in North Dakota, it looks like a major city, all because of the flaring that's going on. But also, there's a lot of emissions as a result of that. So we're concentrating, there's a lot of other stuff we could do, deep water drilling, and we're doing some of that, and there's the Arctic drilling, we're doing some of that. But our concentration is really going to be on where the big future sources of oil in the United States are. Stopping tar sands from coming into the U.S., which means stopping the Keystone XL pipeline, right? So that pipeline's got to go, and then, or not got to not go. And there's another whole expansion, by the way, coming through Minnesota, Wisconsin, called the Alberta Clipper and Lakehead expansion, which will also compete and take oil down to the coast. A huge percentage of it, by the way, to be processed into diesel and exported. It's not even going to be used here. So that is the huge lie of
Trans-Canada.
And Trans-Canada. So those are the two we're working on there. Let's go over to the demand side. On the demand side, we're doing something that the Sierra Club has never done before, which is part of the reason I was hired. We're doing a corporate campaign. We're going to go after Fortune 500 companies. We've already started the campaign. We're in conversation with 30 of the biggest U.S. Fortune 500 companies. We're basically saying to them, we want you to commit to do two things. Number one, you need to commit to get tar sands oil out of your procurement of your fleets. If you ship by a third party, you need to get it out of their consumption. And so make a procurement policy to get rid of it, and then you have to verify it that you've done it. The second thing is you have to assess your overall oil consumption from indirect shipping to other carriers, your fleets that you own, your business travel, and your employees commuting to work. You got to get people out of their cars altogether. And we want you to first start reporting that, and secondly, we want you to commit to reduce it by 25% in the next 5 years. We give you credit that you've been a leader for the work you've done in the last 2 years, but you need to kick ass and get off oil, and you need to go public about this, and publicly report it every year. So we're finding this a very challenging campaign, and there's going to be some modifications and adaptations. But we're really absolutely convinced strategically that the reason you have to do this campaign is because when you talk to Ford, GM, and Nissan and say, how do we drive demand for electric vehicles? They all go, you've got to go after corporate fleets. And you've got to go after government fleets because they buy 1/3 of all the cars that are sold by big three fleets. Not only that, corporate fleets.
I'm sorry, what do you mean when you say fleet?
Yeah.
So when a company, let's talk about PepsiCo, all right? So PepsiCo has Frito-Lay and other things. So they'll have fleets, first of all, they'll have cars, so light-duty vehicles that are cars that their executives drive, their business salespeople drive. So companies have light-duty. Then they'll have medium-duty vehicles. So like Frito-Lay has those trucks that come around and deliver their chips to the store. So they're, UPS, the brown, the ones that are delivered, those are medium-duty vehicles. And then there's heavy-duty vehicles. And those are the tractor trailers that you see when you're driving down the road at Walmart and the post office. Those are the big heavy-duty vehicles. So some companies like Walmart, they own heavy-duty vehicles, they own medium-duty vehicles, and they own light-duty vehicles as well. That's their fleet. All right? So they own that. It's their fleet. Now some companies use it as a third, they really ship a lot of that out to third-party shippers like UPS, FedEx, JB Hunt's. There's companies that are nothing but fleet, big tractor trailer haulers, right? So you've got to drive the fleets. You drive the fleets, and they drive the demand for electric vehicles, and not just Leafs and those, but they drive the demand for Smiths, which is one of the medium-duty vehicle electric truck producers that UPS and FedEx and Frito-Lay are all buying from. And the same thing on the long haul. You're not going to see electric on the long haul But there's a lot of technology and equipment that exists right now that improves the efficiencies of these long-haul truckers by anywhere from 25 to 37% immediately. Because thinner tires instead of fat traction tires, fewer tires. So every time you touch the road, anytime you don't have one of those aerodynamic kind of shields at the top of the cab that kind of blows the wind over, it cuts your mileage down. And these trucks are only getting 6 miles of the gallon anyway. So it doesn't take much to really improve their efficiency. So green fleets. The second piece under demand side campaign is green transportation infrastructure. And this is where we're working with our chapters to do things like complete streets, electrification, bike share, car share, really try to promote those programs. Rapid transit. So we've got 65 chapters working on a whole lot of different things depending on what state they're in, what cities they're in, what opportunities they have, etc. But part of the goal here, the big part of the green transportation infrastructure is get people out of their cars. Get them out of their cars. So on bikes, share cars. I don't know about you, and I bet many of you, I've decided, why do I own a car? In San Francisco, why do I own a car when you have Zipcar? You can rent a car if you absolutely need a car. You got a great bus system. You don't need cars, particularly in urban areas. So that's the second leg, the demand side. There's a third leg, and that's the political side. Oil has too much power over our democracy. I debate sometimes whether climate is the biggest threat or destruction from oil, or whether it's actually our politics and our government. I just realized my time's up. So, just to let you know that one of the things we're going to do is we've started this in the last election. We've identified politicians. We think they're weak. They're in oil's pocket. They take a lot of oil money. They vote the oil industry's subsidies over subsidies for education. We're going into their districts and educating their voters about that. We're going to do that. So we just look, at the end of the day, this is about power. So it's time for environmentalists to just wake up and smell the whiskey. This is about things that are powerful. And the other piece of it is, you've got corporations like Walmart, they give a whole lot of money to politicians who get zero if you were to score them on a fossil fuel or a scorecard. Meanwhile, Walmart's saying that it's very climate conscious. Well, they may do a whole lot of things internally that are good as a result of the campaign against them a few years ago. But when you give that money to politicians who vote for these big policies, it dwarfs anything that they would do internally. So, out of respect for my colleague, I'm going to stop and say thank you very much for inviting me. And I will leave a card or whatever. So, if you have questions, you want to email me, please feel free to do that.
We can take a couple questions. That's fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a couple questions. I'll be really quick.
Okay, let's do the time thing again. Well, how many questions were there?
Maybe 2.
All right. Okay.
And that's the best. Michael is Michael.Marks, M-A-R-X, at sierraclub.org. Marks, M-A-R-X. Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E.
But I do have one question in regard to the talk about. I'm a fleet maintenance mechanic for several people in the Bay Area, including the Caltrans station in the Bay Bridge. I can tell you a whole lot about fleet.
I'll bet.
The whole rest of the world has totally endorsed the Chinese's production of hydrogen-run vehicles. That's why Ford and Chevrolet and Chrysler are all in receivership. They went bankrupt based on the fact that the whole rest of the world is endorsing everybody but us. This is the only country that's still generating oil-producing ships.
Yeah. Well, and I think China's getting, by the way, China is where...
Produces fleets for everybody else in the world that are all hydrogen. We are buying those fleets.
And I think one of the big points for us to keep in mind is, if we don't move on oil and green technology, et cetera, we lose a huge economic opportunity. It is the next economic driver. Green energy, green tech.
Yeah, we endorsed it at the beginning. We keep owning it.
So,
some Rainforest Action Network days that are
Great,
logging to
it's
that.
wonderful. And second, I read a long time ago that highways could be solar collectors. And every time I see new paving that's black instead of white, I think, oh my God, what a waste. Is that true? I mean, does that exist?
I don't know. I wish I could answer that. I don't know. I know it was talked about. I know that there's variations in the technology. One is that it could be a solar electric. The other is that it could be a movement creator. So there are dance floors, for example, or office floors in some of the Bill McDonough buildings, that are designed where when people walk on the floor, there's just a slight give, and as it gives, it generates electricity. It generates power. So when you think about it, think about driving down a freeway where there's just a teeny bit of give, just a teeny bit of give, that's just a major freeway. So there you have it. There's all kinds of possibilities out there. We have just begun to explore. I think we should cut him off.
Okay.
And thank you very much for giving me something else.
All right, I'm afraid we have no more time for questions.
Here is Jess Durbin Ackerman. She comes to us from 350 Bay Area. It's Bill McKibben's environmental group working to stop the climate crisis. She'll explain their campaign to divest from fossil fuel corporations, how they arrived at the idea, and how it will roll out. She's also the conservation organizer with the SF Bay chapter of the Sierra Club. So thank you very much for being so patient.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I guess communication about how much time we have. So my name is Jess, and during the day I work for the Sierra Club, the San Francisco Bay chapter, one of those 65 chapters that Michael was talking about, and we cover Marin, Alameda, Contra Costa, and San Francisco County. So most likely you are all in our jurisdiction. So if you're a member of the Sierra Club, thank you. And then outside of my work hours, I'm a steering committee member for 350 Bay Area, which is a local community group that's based on the idea of 350 parts per million that came out of 350.org. So that's Bill McKibben's organization. So I'm going to talk first about divestment, and then I want to talk really quickly about an event that you might have heard of that we are sponsoring, and there's a TC event, and we're going to have one in San Francisco too, so please come on join us. So 350 International, Bill McKibben's organization, is great. They're doing a lot in the political world. They do stuff all over the world. They have these massive days of action. Maybe you've taken part in one, where they have people in countries all over the world act on one day on climate change. So they're kind of trying to make a statement. And they've had people, 350.org has members or people that are part of its organization in every country in the world except for North Korea. Maybe they do, but we don't really know that. So just this last fall, 350.org decided to go on the road and do a tour of the U.S. all around doing the math of climate change. And Bill McKibben stopped in 27 different cities, and maybe some of you saw him. He was in San Francisco, Berkeley, and Palo Alto in November? October? I can't remember. I think it was right after the election. So the biggest thing that he was talking about was we have to do the math on climate change. We're told that we have this cap of 2 degrees Celsius in order for us to sustain life as we know it on this planet. And what I didn't know, and what Bill told me that night, and everyone else there, is that we can burn 565 more gigatons of carbon dioxide, or put that into the atmosphere, to get to that 2-degree cap. Now, currently, the oil and gas companies in the world have 2,795 gigatons ready to be burned in their reserves. That's 5 times more than what we can burn to get to that 2 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit, Celsius cap. So obviously, I know that's really scary, right? But hopefully you will all leave here and say, I have to do more, I have to do something.
What does that mean when you say?
So that means they've already identified it, and they already know exactly where it is.
But it's still in the plan.
It could be in the ground, or it could be on a train going somewhere. So the tar sands are huge, the Alberta tar sands are a huge amount of that. And, James, I'm sure you've all heard this before, but James Hansen, he's our NASA climate scientist, he said if we burn the tar sands, it's totally game over for basically our species on this planet. So we really need to all take action to stop the burning of the tar sands and stop the export of the tar sands. So one of the biggest things that we can do, other than fighting the Keystone XL pipeline and working on a lot of those same things that Michael was talking about, not allowing the U.S. to export any of this, because if we have stringent regulations and then we don't let it go out, then it's just going to stay underground. And that's what we need, is for all of this to stay underground. So one of the biggest things that came out of this Do the Math tour is to hit these fossil fuel companies where it matters, in their pocketbooks. So, probably everyone in this room has some money somewhere that's invested in fossil fuels. Because when you think about it, your pension, your 401k, your whatever bank you're at, I don't know, maybe you're at a credit union that has a policy that says, I do not invest in fossil fuels, but most of them don't. Or they think they do, but they have this one part of their fund which is managed by someone else, and the truth is that the fossil fuel investments are the best returns right now. They're making the most money of anyone in the world. Exxon passed Apple again. Apple shares went down. Exxon is now the richest and most well-funded company in the world. So one of these ideas of how to act is divestment from these companies. So focusing on large pension funds or schools or community organizations or businesses to say, we do not want to invest any of our money in these fossil fuel companies that are ruining our world. So 350 Bay Area has kind of taken that on as one of our 5 campaigns we're working on. And so far since November, when Bill McKibben did his tour, 200 college campuses are looking into divesting, and the city of Seattle has committed to divest in the next 5 years. So, sorry? Yes. So the website for this is gofossilfree.org, and that's for national. This is a national campaign for 350.org. And I also used to work for 350.org as an intern, like they're an international organization, so if you have any questions about them, I can answer that too. But 350 Bay Area kind of took this on as something that we wanted to do on a local level. So we have 350 Bay Area has 5 campaigns. We have No Tar Sands. We have a Chevron Watch campaign, which does a lot of work in Richmond. We have a Dump the Pump campaign, which is trying to get stickers on gas pumps that basically says what you're putting in your car is causing climate disruption. Just a reminder, so that every time you do that, you remember I am contributing to climate change right now. Carbon cuts, which is a Bay Area carbon fee, and then divestment. So our divestment campaign is pretty new. We just have had 2 meetings so far. We have about 25 active members in the Bay Area. And our last meeting chose 2 targets to work on that are local. We wanted to kind of have a bigger picture and a low-hanging fruit that was local, so we could figure out something that we could actually do first, and then, go for the big ones, the big fish. So we've chosen to target the Peralta Community College District to ask them to divest. And the way that these asks go is it's not like tomorrow you have to divest everything. It asks you to divest all of your money from the top 200 fossil fuel companies in the world in 5 years. So it's just basically this list of 200 of the top grossing 200 fossil fuel companies in the world. So we chose that target because we have connections or local people on this is the board of trustees for the Peralta Community College is elected, and they're members of our community that we actually know. So we figured, hey, we know these people, let's go ask them and see what they think. And actually they were already looking into it, but we're really looking forward to pushing the board further and ensuring that they really do due diligence, and they're pretty liberal boards or board of trustees that we hopefully can get them to divest in the next 5 years. So that was our low-hanging fruit. And then our bigger fish that we are going after is CalPERS. So CalPERS, if you don't know, is the state employee pension fund. And this is for anyone that's ever worked at the state of California. And it's actually the largest pension fund in the country. And they have billions of dollars invested in fossil fuels. And that's like 5% of their portfolio. So this is a huge, huge fund, and we hopefully are going to work at them. We have lots of people that have been state employees. We have people that have worked at the state level in the governor's office, in many different state offices and city governments who are helping us on this campaign, who have kind of had an insider's view, and they're figuring out exactly how much money is invested in each company. $1.1 million CalPERS has invested in Exxon. So this is, is really close to home for us. Like, my mom works for the state of California, a lot of my friends do. And this is where their money, this is their 401k, this is their retirement money, is in these fossil fuels. And they're on 350 Bay Area. They're fighting the climate fight, and their money that they're living off of, or they're planning to live off of when they retire, is invested in fossil fuel companies. So, when you have organizations like CalPERS, or any kind of company that's public, you have all the stakeholders or all the investors, and each of those people gets a vote in what that company does. So, if all of us go to, a school we went to, or an organization we're a member of, or a company that we buy groceries from, or whatever, and we say, I'm your customer, I'm your member, and I think you should be divesting from this, what a difference we can make, right? So, those are the two organizations we're focusing on for divestment right now. Like I said, we have 25 members. We have a meeting about once a month. Our next meeting is February 12th in Berkeley. If you are interested, I can send around a piece of paper and you can sign up. Okay, great. And 350 Bay Area is doing a lot of good work other than divestment as well. So if you want to get involved, please do. Our mission is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the Bay Area as quickly as we can. And this organization grew from about 5 of us a year ago to over 100 of us now. So, we've had one general meeting where 90 people showed up right after the Bill McKibben stopped in the Bay Area, and everybody's fired up and wants to do this. And it's really inspiring to see all these people coming out and saying, who've never done any kind of action before, saying, I'm ready to get to work, tell me what to do, or I have this great idea, and they've never talked to anyone before. So 350 Bay Area is a wonderful community organization. We have a really diverse group, and something I'm really happy to see is age diversity in 350 Bay Area, because I'm on the steering committee, and I'm one of 12, and I'm the youngest by 30 years. So it's really nice to finally see, the generations coming together. And divestment is a great opportunity for that. We're going after a community college district where students can get involved, and a retirement fund where everyone else can get involved. So it's wonderful, and it's a really good opportunity to really ask people that you're involved with on a daily basis to put their money where their mouth is. If they're serious about taking action against climate change, stop investing in fossil fuel companies. So do you want me to take questions on the investment and then go to the next thing, or do you want me to just? Okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. The next thing is an event, so it's not as exact.
okay, well, let's do the numbers then. Where's the hand? 1, 2, let's see. That's it? Okay. Go ahead.
So, I have a friend who works in a very large nonprofit, I won't say which one, and she mentioned that she had researched where their 401k money was going, and some of it was going to fossil fuels. So, and she asked them, is there any way to get out of it? They're like, no, this is the fund we invest in. So, are you guys targeting also large nonprofits that are, and this was an environmental nonprofit.
I mean, honestly, I bet this year, like, I haven't looked into where my benefits are coming from or what my 401k is, but I'm not sure. The Sierra Club honestly could say, oh, that's managed by someone else, and we don't really know what that's invested in. Some people, in this day and age, people contract that out, right? They don't have their investment managers in-house necessarily. So, 350 350 Bay Area's capacity right now is not that great. You know, we have 25 people, we're just starting out, and we chose 2 targets, which hopefully we'll have some movement on this year. And just a little more on CalPERS. Do you know what Series is? It's a large insurance investment firm, and they are really environmentally conscious. They're having their annual conference in San Francisco in May this year, and Bill McKibben is speaking, and so is someone from the board of CalPERS. So we're kind of looking at that as like the ultimate opportunity for us to have our meeting with them, have Bill sit down with the board of CalPERS and say, you know, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. This is, you know, state employees of California. So that's our capacity right now, but there are lots of other people. Like, for example, students at Cal are doing divestment, and we're not involved in that. We don't know, you know, we just found out about it because there was an article in the Daily Cal today about how they're focusing on Cal and also the Board of Regents for the whole UC system. So there's huge potential here. But your friend can go visit gofossilfree.org, and there are tons of resources there.
Right now. Wait, no, let's do this in order. Yes.
Is part of this the money that they would be taking out of fossil fuels going into specifically renewable energy?
So that's one piece that we're focusing on too, is it's like divesting to reinvest. And that's something that I'm not really sure if it's part of the international or the national call for divestment. Honestly, that I'm not so familiar with that. I'm really comfortable with the local stuff, but that's in our ask is, you know, divest in the next 5 years, divest all of your money from these 200 companies and reinvest that money in renewable sources.
I was going to ask.
Him first and then you.
And this was real quick because I actually happened to work on one of the Chevron campaigns for Bay Area 350 to bite the map.
Oh, awesome.
And I don't know if you were going to talk about that, but I won't, you know.
I wasn't,
yeah.
but
Okay.
maybe an announcement. I mean, all of that.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great, cool.
I just say that if you could, I went to my team and I said, what's in all these different things that they were offering? And they were all disgusting. And eventually, what happened was and I've noticed this is good. If you don't like something, they'll get you into it anyway. They'll just say, oh, we had to do this because of that. You know, I mean, they'll just change it around. They'll just put another. They'll just sneak it in. It's like, you know, it's like the laws we try to pass. They have these riders in there, and they're disgusting.
Thank you. I mean, I full disclosure, I'm 25 years old. I am a young person. I have lots of experience working with, you know, people that are older than me, and there is definitely a difference in view on a lot of things I found in the generations, and I have a lot of hope for my life, and maybe that's because I haven't lived as much as many other people, and I haven't had that opportunity to be disappointed, but that's the thing that I'm pushing is, yes, we can do it, we can do it. So, and I inherently also have this great trust in the human race that, you know, there are people that are deceitful, but I hopefully think that we all are, want the common good, and maybe that's really innocent and naive, but I'm 45, so I guess I can have that for a while. Okay, do we have some more?
Yeah, I have a direct response to what you just said.
Okay.
Which is that this is one of the main ways that all of us got down to our social system and started by that care. And it worked. So it may be tricky, and maybe more trickier than it used to be, but I believe that it's an absolutely fabulous idea.
So we actually, at our first divestment campaign meeting, we had someone that actively worked in the Bay Area on divestment from South Africa. So she came and she was like, I don't know really anything about climate change, but I know a lot about divesting. And I'm going to give you these great ideas and you should use them. And I'm going to tell you, don't say this because to a layperson that doesn't know anything about climate change, that sounds stupid. But say this because that sounds great from anyone's point of view. So it's true, and that's where we're taking a lot of our cues from, and we're trying to learn from the past. And we're trying to use those lessons to help us succeed.
Then maybe I'll say this, I like what you're doing. The last two speakers. my address to you is strictly supportive. I don't even have a question.
Very nice, yes.
I wanted to kind of hook up a few things here. Got a big 401k and I have no idea how it. And we heard from McKibben about community banking. And I would love nothing better than to take my 401k and move it to a community bank. And where I know where it is. Public banking? Okay, or someplace where I can know what it is. And, and I don't know, but it would just be great. Is that,
I think you, well,
or even investing in that first guy who's, you know,
Clean Power is
clean
up.
power, yeah. Should they have a way of,
Not yet, it's still very preliminary. Clean Power, yeah. If your 401k is in a public pension fund, you can see what all its investments are. But you can also ask, because your money is in it, you can request to find out that information. And they might not tell you, but if you get along with the other people in your pension fund, you say, hey, we need to find out what the heck's going on, then maybe they'll listen to you.
Okay, you and then you,
So you mentioned kind of in one context about this convention that's going to build a
Series, yeah.
Series? So
It's CERES.
And are they, you said they were an investment?
They're in like insurance, which the reinsurers are really scared about climate change. And they're like, shit, we have to pay for all this stuff that gets destroyed by these massive storms. So they're concerned about climate change, and they're kind of pushing like, hello, don't you know what's going on? You can't just deny this because we're going to be out for billions and billions and trillions of dollars for this. So you should look them up though. They're an international company. They work with corporations to try and get them to basically prepare for climate impacts, and think about that when they're doing their investments. So Ceres is a good partner on this, definitely.
I'm just wondering, since you're with the Sierra Club and like how both of those organizations deal with people who say, okay, no fossil fuels and we should have nuclear.
Okay, great question. 350 Bay Area has no position on that. Sierra Club is completely against nuclear. We do not support it at all. So we want to get it all shut down, and we want no new plants. And Sierra Club will not support anything that includes that at all. So even if there was like this huge renewable energy bill and then there was like $2 for nuclear, we would say, no, we're not doing that. So, yeah, and 350 Bay Area is, we don't really have like a territory yet, so we're trying to figure that out. There's a 350 Silicon Valley, there's a 350 Santa Cruz, there's a 350 Sacramento, so we're all trying to kind of work together and figure out what's going on. But, you know, our capacity is growing kind of larger than we know what to do with. So hopefully we'll get to the point where we can say, hey, tomorrow in Monterey, like, let's get some people to go, or like there's this going on in this other part of the state, but currently we're trying to figure out how to grow that. And so we hopefully you'll get involved with the area and, you know, part, and you can bring your opinion to the table and say, I want to do something on this. And if there are other people there that agree with that, then there's your campaign against nuclear. That's kind of how we work. It's like somebody comes up with an idea, and if there are other people that want to work on that too, then you're a campaign of our 350 Bay Area. So that's how we got to our 5 campaigns so far.
no? Yes. Anybody else?
Oh, no, I actually came back. So this is more for your Sierra Club house party, because I know how organizations like the 50 Bay Area where you find people who are willing to do campaigns. But I was absolutely, I went to Jackie Spears' town hall meeting on Saturday, and it was just absolutely shocking how it's not in the picture. It is totally not. She has written it off. Climate change. It completely written off, she is going to do nothing but climate change. And she's like a good congressperson, like, so, what I was wondering about is, you know, some of the political stuff, because basically when it came up, climate change, basically she said, we're getting nothing done in this, the Congress way is, we're not going to be able to get anything done. And when someone brought up tar sand, she said, well, as long as it's safe. Like, if it's not going to leak, it's not safe.
She said it's already done, Ann. She said it's basically done.
We were there. Well, right, so she wrote that up, but she didn't have any objections to it.
Zero.
Unless, you know, as long as it was, the only objection would be you could like leave, and then she had an objection. But yeah, she was fait accompli, and, you know, we're not going to get anything
They're
done.
already leaking.
Right.
Their pipes, that company's pipes are leaking all over the place.
Yeah, so it was totally, it was a real wake-up call on the political front. So I was interested in knowing about, you know, so Michael Marks talked about the political side. It's sick, you know, I'm interested to hammer on that.
Definitely. So Sierra Club is a C4 organization, and we have the Sierra Club Fund too, which is C3, but we're C4 because we get into politics. I worked for 2.5 months only on local elections in the East Bay this election season. We vet people. We have to have them fill out this huge thing in order to get our endorsement. We usually only endorse one person per race. And we work hard. We have 30,000 members in the Bay Area, and we get them out to call voters or out to the polling places, or we make sure that they vote for the people that we've endorsed. And that's, I mean, we got Dan Kalb elected to Oakland City Council, who used to work at Union of Concerned Scientists and used to be a Sierra Club chapter director for Loma Prieta, the Peninsula chapter. So, you know, we get environmental champions elected, and we also go up against people that are really bad. Like, I can't remember his name. The Dan... Lundgren. Yeah, Lundgren. Yeah, he's not there anymore. Guess what? Because Credo and Sierra Club and a bunch of other organizations bust people out there to go knock door to door on the weekends and say, this is why you should not vote for this guy. So, Sierra Club definitely puts our money out there. We send out, you know, we send out slate cards for who you should vote for Sierra Club, and it's pretty respected. I mean, we're definitely one of the more politically engaged environmental organizations, and we will continue to be so because, you know, we have to get those people out of politics, even at a local level. So thank you.
Well, is it too late to stop the XL
It's
pipeline?
Sorry, what?
Is it too late to stop the XL pipeline?
What?
No, it is not! That is what I have to talk about next! So... I'm cool. So, the next thing I want to talk about, which is also a joint venture between my two separate hats, 350 Bay Area, Sierra Club, Loma Prieta, SFA chapter, Mother Lode, lots of Credo, Citizens Climate Lobby, NRDC, Greenpeace, Center for Biological Diversity. So 350 and Sierra Club National are hosting this giant climate march on Washington on February 17th, which is on President's Day weekend, to ask or demand that Obama take action on climate change, starting with rejecting the Keystone XL pipeline. We have at least 20,000 people that have already signed up for this, and I've been talking to people in the Bay Area who are like, oh, I'm still thinking about flying out to DC for this. So it's going to be a really big thing. People are being bussed in from all over the country to go to this rally. We're kind of thinking of it as the largest rally on climate change ever in the United States. And it's, you know, sponsored by a broad range of organizations. The Hickok Caucus is one of the largest sponsors of it, so we're really excited about that. But, you know, we're 3,000 miles away from that, and our thinking was, should we send people 3,000 miles on a plane to fight climate change? That sounds kind of dumb. So we're going to have our own rally on the same day. So I have these flyers. They're kind of preliminary, but if you want to take one, I'll pass them around. And they just kind of have basic information. So it's going to be 1 to 3 p.m. on February 17th, and we're going to surround One Market Plaza, which is the block that the State Department's office in San Francisco is in. We're going to have lots of signs, we're going to have music, we're going to have a Keystone Pipeline replica, something of that sort. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I've heard from people from Davis and Santa Cruz that they're coming. So we're expecting a large group of people. I hope that you can all be there. It's going to be really fun. We're really trying to reach people that aren't necessarily plugged into groups already. So, we can grow this movement. And like I said, 350 Bay Area has grown in a year from like 6 people to over 100 people. And we're kind of hoping that this event will help us grow the climate movement even larger.
Sorry, where did you say it? It's Raleigh?
One Market Plaza.
Right next to Channel One, it's the Southern Pacific Building.
Yeah, it's the Southern Pacific Building, but the State Department office is actually there too. Now, I just want to make sure, because I know that people have heard that Sierra Club is lifting our ban on civil disobedience, that's for an invite-only celebrity action that's going to be taking place before the DC action. So we are not going to be doing any civil disobedience at our event, and we do not welcome any kind of violence or anything like that at our event. We will have a giant sign that says we do not condone violence. We're trying to make this a really peaceful event that does not cause us any trouble with the city or anything like that. We are trying to work with the city and other government agencies to work on this. It doesn't really help in terms of 350, that 350 Bay Area, it doesn't help our cause to fight against the government or the San Francisco police or the planning department or anything like that. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, and if you tell people about the event, please let them know that. We are still recruiting for volunteers to help plan the event and to help staff the event. We are looking to have between 30 and 50 monitors there the day of to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So if you're interested in volunteering for the event, I guess I'll send around another sign.
Yes.
I just want to say Occupy is completely nonviolent. We've gotten a reputation for
Oh no, I'm saying this to everyone, and it's not you guys.
I just want to make sure everybody totally understands that, because it needs to be said over and over and over and over. As you know, there's a lot of information, and so I just don't want anyone who doesn't know that to know that.
Okay, great. I know that.
And then civil disobedience. I don't know if you guys need sitting down or moving into the street.
Yeah, we're not blocking any streets or anything. We're getting a sidewalk permit because that's all we're going to be doing, and most of the things in this building are closed. There's one restaurant that's opening, and we're going to try not to cut off all their business that day, or maybe we can go in afterwards and we can all support it. Local businesses. But we're not going to try and do any civil disobedience at this event. In the future, we are looking into doing civil disobedience around tar sands, but we're not ready for that. And especially with an event of this size, we don't have the capacity to control that. So we're hoping that everyone that comes will help us with that message.
Right. So civil disobedience and violence are not the same thing, but at this event there will be neither.
Right, exactly. Right, yes, thank you. We have a contingency plan. If we have more people than we originally planned for, we're going to move to another block, and that's right next to that, and have boats around it. Yes, back there.
Yes, are you aware of Idle No More's confrontation with the pipelines?
Reached out to Idle No More to sponsor. So we have been working on partnerships for about 3 weeks. We've reached out to 150 organizations, and we have about 30 that are sponsoring or endorsing so far. And sponsoring just means you're helping to plan the event, and endorsing means you're going to advertise it. So if you have any organizational affiliations that want to be part of this event, I know you guys said that you want to endorse.
At the bottom of the list. That list that went around?
It's right there. That's the back. So this is for the Forward on Climate rally. The other thing you can do is the website that's so Forward on Climate right now only has the DC action. But if you go, can I give you another email address or another website to go to? So San Francisco Bay or sfbay.sierraclub.org/forward. sfbay.sierraclub.org/forward. And that has information on our event, and that has my contact information on it too, since I'm the central point of contact for all volunteers or partner organizations. So we will have more formal flyers next weekend, and we're hoping to get some help with people getting those out into our community. So putting them up in the coffee shop you go to, or the community center, or a business that you know is excited and concerned about climate change. So hopefully maybe I can email that out or something, and you guys can get it out to your groups. But we're really hoping to make this big. We've had a couple climate demonstrations in San Francisco before, and the last one I think had about 1,500 people. So we're hoping to make it bigger than that, and if you can help in any way, that would be great. So does anybody else have questions?
What is your name?
Oh, Jess.
Jess.
Dervin. And I can also give you my email address. It's Jess, JESS, at SF, San Francisco, Bay, SC.org. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to talk to any of you anytime.
5 minutes, right? So the word is that we are now having a 5-minute break. So, wait.
Well, does anybody have any more questions before we have a break? Because I'm going to leave. So.
Actually, all right. This is not but the whole thing about the flying.
Sorry. Go.
Just the idea about flying people out and it didn't make sense. Remind me of a conversation I had with somebody about how the carbon credit thing. Anyway, I'm interested in what people's feelings or information on this, because I had a gut negative reaction to this, but I don't know anything about it. Has anyone ever used them or whatever offsets or something?
Yeah.
When you fly, what's the
So you can purchase them if you'd like. I can explain Rex too if you want. That's part of the Clean Power SF program too. This is like the power that the city is purchasing from Shell is Rex. So Rex stands for Renewable Energy Credits, and there are different classes of Rex. So they're the best ones are the most expensive, and they fund new generation of renewables. So they fund like the building of new installations. And then there are some RECs that fund existing generation of renewables. And those are all like California certified, or RPS certified, that's what it's called. So there is a process for making sure that this money is actually going to renewables, but there are also RECs called green E-RECs, and there's really no kind of regulation or very little, and the market for that is very muddled, and those are the cheapest ones. And when PG&E comes out with their green option next year at the same time as Clean Power SF to try and get you to join theirs are going to be the lowest grade. And Clean Power SF is going to be a mix of the higher and the middle ones. So RECs it's gotten better since they've been invented, but a lot of people don't like them because you're not actually investing your money in your own renewable generation, and you might be sending your money elsewhere. So like San Franciscans are going to spend money to buy energy from Shell, but those jobs that money creates to build new renewable installations might be 5 states away, or in another, it won't be in another country because they're renewable portfolio standard recs. But there's that aspect to it. So.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. So we now have to close this portion.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to show a couple of videos, one from the Rocky Mountain Institute and the other on sustainable energy. So let's take 5 minutes. come back and speak.
Thank you guys.
President,
Thank you.
Thank you.